Ever wonder if you could frame someone for a crime? But before we begin, let's get a better understanding of genetics. The body is made up of several organ systems that all work together to make sure the body keeps functioning. These systems are made up of various different organs. An organ is part of the body made up of tissues to perform a specific function. In turn, these tissues are made up of tiny, specialized, and unspecialized cells that hold genetic information that make a person who they are. The cell is the smallest entity of life. It's unbelievable how something so small can decide how your life will be lived. Our cells hold instructions that allow our bodies to function. These instructions are found in the nucleus, also known as the control center of the cell. In the center of the nucleus, we can find DNA. These are long, thin strands of genetic material that contain instructions. Once our DNA is bundled up, it forms a chromosome. Each chromosome contains a number of different characteristic determining units called genes. All the genes make up the human genome. Through the Genome Project, we learned how our genes are sequenced and make up who we are as individuals. The Genome Project allowed us to learn that our DNA is built with long, paired strands that only carry 4 letters, A, T, C, G, which stand for adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. We should know that A pairs with T and G always pairs with C, and they cannot pair with anyone else. Strings come together to form a double helix, which are base pairs consisting of combinations of these letters. When the long 3 sequence of 3 billion base pairs of the ATGCs are read, they tell our bodies how to make proteins, which are able to do anything and everything. They determine skin color, hair color, eye color, fingerprints, and basically everything else. And if just one letter seems to be incorrect in the sequence of 3 billion base pairs, this can directly or indirectly lead to outer characteristics that can distinguish you from others. Now we can get back to our main question. Is it possible to frame someone for a crime with the use of science? Well, let's take a look at a crime scene. In any crime scene, there is a major component that is analyzed and is crucial for ruling out suspects, finding criminals, and proving their guilt, otherwise known as evidence. This evidence could comprise fingerprints, blood, skin and hair cells, footprints, etc., all of which are part of our DNA. However, is it possible to tamper with the evidence at a crime scene and modify the suspect's samples of DNA to fit someone else? The answer is yes. Due to a study published in 2009 by the Daily Mail, scientists examined how DNA evidence can be fabricated and planted at crime scenes. Israeli researcher Dan Frumkin and his company applied 2 techniques to fabricate the evidence, both of which involve the concept of gene therapy, specifically gene surgery and gene modification. In the first method, they extracted minute samples of genetic material which included strands of hair from the suspect multiplied many times over. Then they inserted this DNA into blood cells of the victim that had been purged of all genetic clues to the real owner, or in this case, the alleged suspect. Finally, the blood of the victim then contained the genetic fingerprint of the initial suspect, making it a frame-up. The company also developed a more complicated technique which relies on knowledge of the DNA fingerprint, a barcode of genetics from 20 set spots on a person's DNA. The scientists built a library containing hundreds of DNA snippets covering all the genetic codes that crop up at the set points scrutinized by police investigators. To make a sample matching a particular fingerprint, they just dipped into their library for the right combination and mixed them in a test tube. In theory, it could then be planted at the scene of a crime, framing an innocent person. With this in mind, using the theory of gene therapy to frame someone for a crime is morally unjust. In today's society, people all over the world are being framed for crimes they have not committed. Victims are being entirely or partially held responsible for someone else's wrongdoing. This is unjustifiable because framing an innocent person for a crime is a crime in itself, and although DNA is very important to a case, the investigations are not carried on the basis of DNA alone. Thanks for watching.